Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Two Matts and a Jeff podcast. We're just some middle-aged guys talking sports. I'm Matt Moyer, along with Jeff Moyer and Matt Batten, and our topic today is baseball, and we're looking at the all-time greatest team that you could compile. So we've each put together a team from the whole history of baseball that we think would be the best team ever, and we're going to go through individual positions and tell who we have and who we thought would be the best person at that position. So we're going to start with pitcher. Jeff, why don't you start with who do you have as your pitcher for your all-time great team?
Okay. Well, I'm going to go old school with my pitcher, Walter Johnson from the Washington Senators. I got a lot of different things here. He played 21 seasons, so I think that's a long time to play. He averaged, and this is crazy, I think, he averaged 19 wins in a season. Especially if you, I'm sure we're going to do this a lot, is compare things to today.
Right.
And, that's going to just blow people out of the water. Anyway, 19 wins, average 19 wins a season. He had 417 total wins. He won 2 MVPs. He was the strikeout king 12 of those seasons. So 12 out of 19 seasons, he was the strikeout king. He had 3,508 strikeouts. He pitched over close to 6,000 innings pitched. 5,900 innings pitched.
Complete games back then.
You want to know that? I just wrote that.
Yeah.
531 complete games.
Wow.
Unheard of.
Yeah. Now.
So,
that's it.
and now I'm not sure if this was right. I guess it is, but a 1.47 ERA is what I have. That seems kind of crazy, but
So the only statistic there that I would push back on is the wins, because the pitcher only controls a part of that equation. And I've always had a little bit of an issue with pitchers being judged by wins and losses, because they can hold the team to one run or and that's it, and you still lose if your offense doesn't come up.
Well,
but a lot of impressive statistics and stuff that just isn't going to happen.
I'm glad you just mentioned. I watched the program today on ESPN, and they were just talking about how baseball in particular, one person, you could have a superior grade one person, but that's not going to affect it like a basketball team in particular, or even football or something. But in baseball, you have one superior player, and it's
not enough to carry. Even if you have the greatest pitcher in baseball, and that's the most important position in baseball, I think, it's still not enough, because they're only going to be out there once every 5 days. Basketball, you got 5 guys on the court. I think that's your best place to have most impact compared to football or anywhere else. But best pitcher, Matt, or who do you got for your starting pitcher?
So I'm going to start off with calling a violation on myself because I couldn't choose or whatever. Now, when I looked at pitchers and I thought of, Walter Johnson, back in the day, they pitched a lot, they pitched whatever, but they didn't face the talent that they face today.
That's very
Plus,
true.
the two pitchers that I picked were pitched in the steroid era. So I figured they had to face the most difficult challenge or whatever. So the 2 guys I picked were Greg Maddux and Randy Johnson. And I couldn't figure out which one. Greg Maddux,
totally
obviously.
different kind of.
Yeah, right, that's what I'm saying. Greg Maddux is more of let's paint the black. And Randy Johnson is more of a power guy or whatever. They both pitched over Maddux pitched over 5,000 innings. Johnson over 4,000. Both of them Maddux had 4 Cy Youngs. Johnson 5. Both well over 300. Well, Johnson a little bit over 300 wins. Maddux 355. Both right around 3 ERAs. Both of them only around 3.25, 3.37 walks per 9, which I think is control. That's a big thing in pitching, obviously. And Johnson averaged 10.61 strikeouts per 9. So more than a strikeout an inning or whatever. I thought about it who would I want on the mound if we're going out my 9 versus another 9. Who do I want starting my game for me? And that's what I was thinking.
So which one of those 2 guys?
I'm going to go with Randy Johnson.
Randy Johnson's going to start.
I would say if you're doing a one guy,
if I don't pitch one guy.
Yeah, I mean,
especially, sorry, but like when he pitched, because his speed was, probably comparison, closer to today's game too.
Right.
So
Maddox probably had better control.
Right. I think that's a tough comparison. Is the speed today of some of these guys? They're throwing a lot faster, obviously, than back then. But so then there's a case to be made. My guy who probably wasn't throwing a lot of heat. I don't know the speeds. Isn't it then harder to strike guys out when you're not throwing 95 miles an hour? You've got to have movement. You've got to paint the corners. You've got to do a lot of things. to strike guys out. Maybe there's a case to be made for that, maybe not. But I picked Sandy Koufax. So I went old school, and I think a lot of my lineup is kind of old school, and that's not necessarily an indictment on the new players because there are a lot of great new players. But he was 7-time All-Star, 4-time World Series champion, 3-time Cy Young winner. And I gave serious consideration to whether I should be picking Cy Young since they named the award after him, but I didn't. Let's see, 2-time World Series MVP, 3-time Triple Crown, 3-time Major League Baseball win leader, 4-time strikeout leader, and he threw a perfect game.
So I'm going to ask a really dumb question. What's Triple Crown for pitching? I know what it is for hitting.
Well, you're going to call me out. We should pause, and we should actually cut this out.
I think it's probably strikeouts and
strikeouts,
maybe wins,
ERA wins, or something
maybe
like that.
I'd be truthful. I don't know. I wrote down a statistic, and I don't know. That's a great question. So those of you watching or listening, you can look that up, and then you can call me out on not knowing my own statistics.
Feedback.
Yeah, give us feedback. There you go. Call me out for being a sham and putting a statistic I didn't know the answer to. No, so I kind of, like I said, I kind of went old school, and a lot of my lineup might be a little bit more old school, and maybe they wouldn't compare. Although it would be interesting, of course, to do that. We'll never know unless we go, Rocky Balboa in the movie Rocky Balboa, where they computer generated the guys and did it. All right, up next, I think we're going to go with catcher. Why don't we rotate the starter?
Okay.
Matt, who do you got for your starting catcher?
My catcher on my team is Johnny Bench. Not a great average, 267, although not bad. Obviously, all these guys are Hall of Famers. We don't even have to mention that.
Exactly. Goes without saying.
Yeah.
It better, at least. If you're not a Hall of Famer, no reason to be on this list.
2-time MVP, 381 homers, 1376 RBIs, 2,000 games played. I'm thinking for a catcher, that's a big thing because on the knees and everything. But the biggest thing with Johnny Bench is a 10-time Gold Glove winner.
Yes.
So not only was he proficient at the plate, but he was the best, I think, as far as they call them backstops or whatever in the game all time. That's who I would put up behind the plate if I put together a team.
Well, I think that's the thing is when you're looking at, except for the pitchers, there's two parts of the game, right? So you're gonna, and
fielding,
fielding and hitting, and where's the person that has both of those?
Right.
So I think Johnny Bench is a great choice. So great, I picked him too. He was my catcher as well for all the reasons you said, and I had that 10-time Gold Glove. I think really speaks volumes.
Right.
Not like a power hitter. He only had 389 home runs, but he had 1,376 RBIs. So a rock solid catcher for sure. So there you go.
For those of you listening and watching, maybe first time, that we don't ever compare lists ahead of time because I have Johnny Bench as well. And one couple things that I can add is his nickname was Little General. I think, well, at least something I've read, and I think that just says it all for a catcher. That you got to be the person behind there. He was a Rookie of the Year, 1968. OPS was 817. He had close to 390 home runs, which that's a lot, I believe. 1,300 RBIs, over 2,000 hits, and so I think it was hard not to choose Johnny Bench.
Well, obviously, it must have been hard not to choose him since we all picked him. And one of the things I think that's different about these kind of baseball lists is you have a way bigger sample size of baseball players than you do
especially
from any other sports. Baseball's been around for a long, long, long time, and so for all of us to pick the same guy, pretty unique. All right, first base. So my first baseman that I selected, and we were having a conversation before we went on the air here about where do you put guys who maybe don't have a set position. And the guy that I picked for first base is a guy I couldn't leave off the list, Johnny Hustle, Pete Rose. So he played a number of different positions. He played, first base for the Phillies. And so I couldn't leave him off the list, and I didn't know where else to put him, to be honest with you. Like what position would be better compared to some of the other guys I have on the list. So that's where I put him. A guy who should be in the Hall of Fame. I'll say that right there.
I agree.
So, you're right.
Yeah,
I
he
agree.
should be in the Hall of Fame. Everything he did in baseball, he deserves it. Let's see. He was Silver Slugger, 2-time Gold Glove, 3-time NL batting. I can't read my own writing. World Series MVP, 7-time All-Star, 4,256 hits. 784 on base. he's Pete Rose. His statistics speak for themselves, and to me, he belongs on any list of great players in baseball. So I had to put him somewhere. So I put him at first base, and he belongs in the Hall of Fame. I'll say it again. So there you go.
I'm saying grit. I mean,
Yes,
yeah.
you know.
tough as nails player.
Yeah.
All right, so my first baseman, again, going back in the day here, I picked Lou Gehrig. So he was a 2-time MVP. I started looking at a lot of these lists. A lot of these guys are, obviously probably were MVPs. Again, he played 17 years, 17 season. His OPS was 1.08, so he was well above people. His batting average was 340 average,
Yes.
close to 2,000 RBIs, 400, close to 500 home runs. So I got Lou Gehrig.
Yeah, that's who I have too. Let's see.
there anything
I
else
don't know
that
what
you-
else to add. I think that's everything. I didn't really have anything. Obviously, unfortunately, he
Right.
got sick and as it's infamous for the disease named after him,
Right.
ALS or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lou Gehrig. I mean, I'm gonna say right up front here, I don't have Pete Rose, but this might be where I would have. This is one
Right.
spot where I would have put him.
Right, and it's tough. I mean, because I can't argue against Lou Gehrig.
Right.
Well, I was going to say,
And
a lot
You
of
got to
them
figure out where to put
Right,
Pete Rose
try to-
if you're gonna put him.
Right, if I'm going to put him, which I felt like I needed to,
Right.
that's where I put him. So, how about second base?
All right, so I'll start with second base. Again, I'm going old school. I mean, I was really thinking about another guy. I'm going to be curious what your lists are here, but I went Rogers Hornsby. He played 23 seasons. I mean, long time. He led the league in batting average 7 times. Again, he had an OPS of 1.01, so again, over 1. He had over 300 home runs, 2-time MVP. His batting average was 329 for lifetime, over 3,400 hits, over 1,700 RBIs. Another thing that made him, again, because when you start looking at these types of players, 722 stolen bases. So that's why I picked him.
Yeah, that's another statistic that came up with another position that I have, not particularly this position, that is one that, could differentiate a player for sure. And we, haven't talked about that at all yet.
Yeah. So I thought about Rogers Hornsby, but I went with because it's just so hard. Like we think about old players or whatever, but the ones that are like some Sandy Koufax.
Yeah.
Like we sort of have an idea
Yeah.
about him, whatever.
Yeah, he
But,
was
Roger
old.
Hornsby,
He was
like, I had
older.
no clue,
Yes.
except for the stats. You
Right.
have no idea about
Right,
him.
no
or
frame of
whatever.
reference for
Yeah.
sure.
So I was like neck and neck or whatever, but I went with Joe Morgan.
That was the guy.
I figured that's who it was, but I went with Joe Morgan. 268, 2-time MVP, 5-time Gold Glove. 2,600 games played. 21-year career. Lots of 2,500 hits. But he had 689 stolen bases, which when I think of Joe Morgan, because I think of Joe Morgan, I think of him like Cincinnati Reds, but also when he was with the Phillies for a
Right.
year, and then at the end of his career with the Astros and everything. I did not think of, when I think of the stature, how Joe Morgan, the player,
Wasn't the
is or whatever.
stolen base guy.
I don't think of him as stolen bases, but obviously he had a lot of stolen bases. When I think of Joe Morgan, is the
Yeah.
you guys remember the
Yeah.
pump?
Yes.
On
I
his
do
batting
not remember
stance.
the
So he was a left-hander and he had to pump. I used to imitate his pump when he was batting or whatever. So anyhow, but Joe Morgan's who I put second base.
So here again, a little bit of a curveball, maybe, so to speak, for my second baseman, because this is a guy I felt like I needed to put on the team. And, he's a guy who played a few positions, and his statistics probably aren't as great as some others, but I put Jackie Robinson. So he had a couple different positions,
Yeah.
but I felt like second base was the right place to put him compared to some other positions and some other players. And again, his statistics are they're 313 batting average, so right there, and it's one of those things in baseball when you get over 300, that's pretty darn good. 6-time All-Star, 2-time stolen base leader, MVP, and broke the color barrier.
Yeah,
So
right.
to me, he needed to be on the team. Great player. Maybe as far as individual positions, hey, the statistics you guys quoted for your second baseman are better than his. But I think that he needed a place on my team. So that's where I put him.
Significance.
Yeah, the significance to the sport, I felt like he needed a place on my team. So that's where I put him.
All right. So I think, Matt, you're going to be up.
Shortstop. So shortstop, I went with Cal Ripken Jr. mostly because he was the Iron Man. 3,001 games played. Nothing like that sets him apart as far as 431 homers, nothing to sneeze at. 1,695 RBIs, 2-time MVP. Again, 276 average is great, but not like going to get you in the hall like that. But just going out there, every single day for however long it was or whatever before the game streak snapped or whatever, stopped or whatever, which he did himself. Like, it's not like he was hurt or whatever. So that's when I think of the
especially
shortstop,
for today's players.
Right? Yeah, that's like unheard of. They would never even consider that. But yeah, he was just he's there. I mean, their guy was sort of close or whatever, and my guys might be guys you have or whatever. But that's just I went with Cal Ripken Jr.
Yeah. So for shortstop, I think you got to have him on the list. Cal Ripken Jr. I picked him as well. Again, a guy I think you kind of needed for all the reasons you pointed out. Again, we make the list independently, but I think he's a guy that deserves to be on an all-time great team, and so I picked him as well.
Well, I'm kind of glad that I had him on my first choices.
First
I'm
draft.
going through. I went real old school again, and a lot of you, those of you that are collectors,
I was gonna say that.
he's more known for his baseball card,
yeah.
and that's Honus Wagner. He had an OPB of 391. He played again 21 season, OPS of 858. But again, I just maybe throwing in somebody different in there as well. But again, a lot of you know him as the card, the baseball card.
And I think that's he's one of those guys. All you have is what's written on a piece of paper. I don't know that there's video of him. I don't think
Probably can't be. Yeah.
I'm sure. So, all right. So third base. So yeah, I'm going to be Homer-ish here for third base, but I also think it's pretty hard to argue against my third baseman, which is Mike Schmidt. So Mike Schmidt played for the Phillies, of course, our hometown team. 548 home runs. 908 on-base percentage, 12-time All-Star, 3-time NL MVP, 6-time Silver Slugger, 8-time NL home run leader, 4-time RBI leader. Just an exceptional all-around player. I don't have it down here, but I thought he had a Gold Glove, but maybe. Yeah, 10.
I was gonna say
10.
Yeah,
10 Gold Gloves.
10 Gold Gloves. I don't know why I don't have it written down here. I thought I remember writing it down. 10 Gold Gloves. So all-around player, and I defy you to pick a better third baseman than Mike Schmidt, even though I'm being a homer.
You're up.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say you said everything I said. Mike Schmidt, 10 Gold Glove is what I put on. He also had close to 1,600 RBIs. He's one of my, again, especially when I grew up, it was Mike Schmidt. And I wanted, when I played baseball, I mean, that was, I wanted to play infield and play, be Mike Schmidt. And to think back, I didn't probably realize, how great he was. He was just, like you said, he was all-time great. I mean,
I picked Michael Jack Schmidt as well. I wrote down that I thought this was the easiest choice, not because of being in Philly or whatever. For my different positions, all my different positions,
you're
I thought
right.
that this was the easiest choice, and not because it was Mike Schmidt and I love him, just because I thought he was that far above the next guy down.
I was gonna say, especially when you start doing a little research stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much,
Right.
and especially because the duel. I mean, with the Gold Gloves, and
I don't really have anything down stats wise or whatever, but yeah, I loved him as well. Like I think I even had in my glove was even said Mike Schmidt on the inside.
Well, I think it's interesting, being from this area, we heard, back when he did play, people fans didn't like him, I guess, because of the way he treated
press and
but
whatever, and
but
things.
still,
Whatever.
just amazing that he's beloved around here for sure. So.
Yeah.
So again, in the comments or reach out to us if you think there's someone better. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
But I defy you to come up with a better third baseman. All right, we're moving to the outfield.
All right, so I'm assuming we did by position of outfield.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
but I did the out by position.
Which made it a little bit difficult because there's some guys that you could have had
Yes.
around different. Say a little difficult, but again, because I have some guys I needed to put on my list, so I might have put them in an outfield position. They definitely played, but not known for that position per se.
All right, so I'll start with the left field then.
Okay, sounds
We'll go left field. I went with Ted Williams, Boston Red Sox. I've got a lot of stuffs here. So he played 19 seasons, OPB of 482, which was all-time best. OPS was 1.116, which is super high. His batting average was 344 overall, 1,800 RBIs, 529 home runs, 2-time MVP. And here's he was 19 All-Star appearances. What I wrote, so he went to the Korean War. I'm sure you guys look for 2 years, and basically those were the 2 years that he didn't get in the mention of MVP because he basically didn't play. So yeah, but I'm saying so he pretty much was in conversation for MVP every single year he played.
Right.
So I mean it's incredible when you start looking at stats. Yeah. So
well, I have the splendid splinter Ted Williams as well for my left fielder. I'm not sure what to add there. Did you said 344 or 340, whatever it was. One thing I wrote down that I thought was interesting was he had, I believe, over 2,000 walks.
That's.
I mean, look, give us feedback if that's not right, but that's what I saw. Maybe my eyes were not whatever. I was looking at a lot of numbers, but it had 2,021 walks. You think about
I believe it.
What your eyes are to get 2,000 walks, and
well,
we had.
I guess when you think about it, I mean, you got so many hits. They probably walked him. Yeah,
they probably walked.
I don't know if they walked him intentionally or if it was just he was that good an eye or whatever. But yeah, Ted Williams is definitely my left fielder.
Well, not purposely, but to add a little spice, I chose in my left fielder Ricky Henderson. So. Wow, yeah. So one of the
good thing for you, Ted Williams isn't alive. He'd be coming down those stairs.
Maybe. So yeah, well, variety's the spice of life here too. But 10-time All-Star, AL Gold Glove, 3-time Silver Slugger, only 279 batting average, 3,055 hits, 1,406 stolen bases.
Yeah,
so
huge.
That's what I think about most when I think about Ricky Henderson is the stolen bases. 12-time stolen base leader, 297 home runs. So I can clearly say your statistics for Ted Williams are better, but I don't know the modern era, more modern era. Say more modern because he played quite a bit ago now, but more modern than Ted Williams.
But you think about it, you're right. Like Ricky Henderson gets on first, you're not more worried about him on first than you are Ted Williams.
Right. Well, I was just going to say, I guess if you're looking at an overall team and you're kind of say, well, I want to put this guy, you would,
hitting for
I was kind of going homers. Just okay. I'm going to go overall best player, but
there's a
need a leadoff.
I can't argue against that for sure. All right, center field.
Center field. I thought this was a stacked position.
It was pretty hard.
It seemed like there was like a bunch I thought were grouped, and then there was one that sort of stood out to me, and that is Willie Mays. 22-year career, 301 average, 2-time MVP, obviously 660 homers, 1,900 and some RBIs, 3,200 some hits, 338 stolen bases, 12-time Gold Glove, which I did not know. I mean, everyone knows the over the basket, over the head catch or whatever, going out the center of the wall, but I didn't know he was a 12-time Gold Glove winner. So Willie Mays was my choice based on all those stats, the offense and defense. Or whatever, so.
I selected Willie Mays as well, and the one stat I think I have here, and correct me if I'm wrong, 24-time All-Star.
Yep.
Wow.
Because
it just seems like he sends such a crazy number, but everything else there, 24 times. So yeah, I mean Willie Mays, center field, a lot of great center fielders out there.
Right.
But Willie Mays is my
he's my center field obviously, and that's why I was looking at what didn't you say? So with the home runs, all those home runs, he actually led the league 4 times. He was Rookie of the Year. The year he played, and one thing I wrote because I saw something is that he was the epitome of a 5-tool player. Okay. They said, when you think of everybody say, "Oh, he's a 5-tool player," right. That he was the epitome of a 5-tool player because he had, like you mentioned, I mean, the Gold Gloves, the speed, the power, everything. So he was, the average. I mean, like I said, over 300 average and power and everything else. So yes, Willie Mays.
All right, so right field. So my right fielder. This is a guy I could not leave off the team, and he played a few positions, but right field was one of them, and that's Babe Ruth. So I needed Babe Ruth on the team. I wasn't going to make him my pitcher, even though he was a decent pitcher. He was not as good as the pitchers that we have, and I couldn't not have him on the team like some of my other guys. So this is where he ended up. So he's Babe Ruth. I mean, what else do you need to say? The great Bambino, if you watch The Sandlot. .342 batting average, 2,873 hits, 714 home runs, two-time All-Star, seven-time World Series champ, MVP, 12-time home run leader. I mean, he's Babe Ruth. I don't even need to say much more. He is one of those guys, like a number of guys on here, that everybody on the planet knows who he is. And so I couldn't not have him on the team. So he's going to play right field. His defense might not be as great as some other right fielders, but he makes up for it at the plate.
Who's next, me or you? Okay. Babe Ruth, 22 seasons. Let me see, 714 home runs. His OPS is the best all-time, a 1.164. Yeah, I mean, Babe Ruth.
All right, so I thought this was the hardest one, and I thought I can't leave Babe Ruth off, but for one person, and that's Hank Aaron.
Okay.
I thought it was right there, neck and neck, and I realized one of those years I wish we had a DH or something because it just
I was thought about
throwing,
after the
throwing
fact. We
Babe
probably
Ruth
should.
into the DH spot or something, or Hank Aaron in the DH spot. But yeah, Hank Aaron 305, which I didn't realize he hit that well for average, 305 average. MVP once, 3-time Gold Glove, which I had no clue.
No, I didn't.
I didn't think of him at all in defense.
Yeah.
Obviously 755 home runs, the real home run leader. 2297 RBIs, 3,300 and some hits, 3,200 and some games played, and 12,000 plus at bats. Now, I don't know where he hit in the order, but that's a lot of at bats or whatever. So, but
Well,
yeah.
just what also means he must not have missed very many games. I
Right.
mean, yeah.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Well, guys in that
22
era
years.
didn't miss a lot of
No.
games. They're
No.
not taking Sundays
No.
off.
No.
That just didn't
Wasn't
happen.
too hot.
or the day game after a night
Yeah,
game.
right.
You know.
Yeah, that didn't happen. Well, that's my list. But you guys have any guys you need to add in there to again call a violation on yourself if you're going to do it? But you might have had some honorable mentions. I stuck straight with my list. It stands on its own.
I just wrote a couple honorable mentions because you were saying about not leaving people off a list. I left them off my list, and he wasn't on either of yours either. But Joe DiMaggio, I mean 325 batting average overall, 1,500 RBIs, 360 home runs. I mean, he just that was one of the guys. As one of the pitchers, I thought Nolan Ryan was somebody I considered, and then just throwing in two guys that those of you that might be young know, and that is somebody that's probably going to make a list someday is Mike Trout.
Yep.
I can't put him on a list yet.
No,
but I mean the dude is
Maybe
spectacular, and a guy that we kind of forget about because he's kind of losing his step now. Is our Pujols was another guy. The young guys. I mean, he was on his tail end of his career now, but he was spectacular.
When he was with St. Louis.
That's
I mean, listen, I love me some Ryan Howard. But when there was talk of Pujols for Howard, I would have taken that in a heartbeat. I mean, I loved Ryan Howard, but I would have taken Pujols at that juncture in both their careers.
Well, I think the case to be made against any of our lists probably is that we don't have really any contemporary young guys. And there's something to be said about the new athlete today. Yeah. And, are they superior in some ways? Maybe, maybe not.
Well, the fight, I think especially now Pujols is going to have the years right now, but like a Trout, it just doesn't have the years yet to see if he can sustain, but like that.
And who does he bump off?
Right. Well,
right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Right. So I had a couple. So George Brett was close on third, but it was, again,
exactly.
that's the biggest gap.
That would be a definite violation.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
if you would have called George Brett, you'd have had been out of here.
I know. Exactly. Barry Bonds was left field or whatever. I just really wish the guy would have he didn't need to take steroids.
I was just gonna say he was gonna be a Hall of Famer
without that. Right. Without. Yes. And then we had Mantle, DiMaggio, Cobb, Trout, Griffey Jr. Like that. I thought center field was just stacked.
When I think of Griffey, I think because he was just on for something today. I saw because of his playing with his dad. But
they're the only
swing,
father-son combo today. The day we're filming this is the anniversary of them hitting back-to-back home runs.
Oh.
They're the only father-son combo to ever do that on the same team, which is pretty incredible. 40 and 20, that's their age differences. 20 different.
I mean, his swing was just so freaking sweet. Yeah.
And then right field, Clemente. I think who
another
knows?
Guy you could hard.
Yeah, and Frank Robinson as well. But just
a lot of great players.
A lot of great players, but that's the point. You got to be committing to one.
Yeah.
So if you're watching, if you're listening, hey, give us some comments. Let us know your feedback. If you agree or disagree with anyone on our list. You have been listening or watching the Two Matts and a Jeff podcast. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will see you next time.